Assalamu alaikum students. I am your lecturer EVS. Today we will discuss about water pollution, that is the second unit of your syllabus. As all of us know that 2/3 of Earth's surface is covered by water, less than third is taken up by the land. As Earth population continues to grow, people are putting ever increasing pressure on the planet's water resources. 19th सेंचुरी में इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन के बाद वाटर पोल्यूशन का कॉन्सेप्ट दिमाग में आया because as industrialization spread around the globe, the problem of pollution spread. When Earth's population was much smaller, no one believed pollution would ever present a serious problem. It was once popularly believed that the oceans were far too big to pollute. Today, with around 7 billion people on the planet, or more than that, it has become apparent that there are limits. Pollution is one of the signs that humans have exceeded those limits. How serious is this water pollution problem? According to the Environment Campaign Organization, that is WWF, pollution from toxic chemicals threaten life on this planet. Every ocean, every continent, from the tropics to the once pristine polar regions, is contaminated. Water pollution is defined as in Wikipedia we say it like water pollution is the contamination of water bodies, usually as a result of human activities. Water bodies include all examples of like lakes, rivers, ocean, aquifers and groundwater. Water pollution results when contaminants are introduced into the natural environment. Usually the water pollution we can define it in other ways, like it means one or more substances that build up in water to such an extent that they may cause problems for the animal as well as for the people. Let me give you an example of this. If you pour a cup of black ink into a river, the ink would quickly disappear into the river's much large volume of clean water. The ink would still be there in the river, but in such a low concentration that you would not be able to see it. Okay, at such low levels the chemicals in the ink probably would not present any real problem. However, if you pour gallons of ink into the river every few seconds through a pipe, the river would quickly turn black. The chemicals in the ink could very quickly have an effect on the quality of the water. This in turn could affect the health of plants, animals and humans whose lives depend on the river. Thus we can say that the water pollution is not all about the quality, it's all about quantities. How much of the polluting substances is released and how big a volume of water it is released into. A small quantity of a toxic chemical may have little impact if it is spilled into the ocean from a ship, but the same amount of chemical can have a much bigger impact if pumped into a lake or a river where there is a less clean water to disperse it. Water pollution almost always means when some damage has been done to an ocean, river, lake or other water source. Coming to the topic, types of water pollution. There are two types of water pollution. One is natural and the second is anthropogenic. Natural water pollution, as the name indicates, it is caused by the natural processes, like we have soil erosion, we have addition of clay, we have silt, runoff, etc. एंथ्रोपोजेनिक वाटर पोल्यूशन में हम लोग वो पोल्यूशन इंक्लूड करते हैं दैट आर कॉज्ड बाय द ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज़. वी हैव इंडस्ट्रियल इफुलेंट्स, वी हैव डोमेस्टिक स्वेज, वी हैव फर्टिलाइजर्स एक्सेट्रा. जब हम एंथ्रोपोजेनिक की बात करते हैं तो हम इनको दो चीज़ों में और कैटेगराइज कर लेते हैं, सरफेस वाटर पोल्यूशन में और ग्राउंड वाटर पोल्यूशन में. एंड व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द सरफेस वाटर पोल्यूशन, व्हाट इज़ दैट? सरफेस वाटर पोल्यूशन में क्या चीज़ें आती हैं? इसमें हमारे सारे ओशन, लेक्स और रिवर्स आते हैं. और क्योंकि ये जो द मोस्ट ऑब्वियस टाइप ऑफ वाटर पोल्यूशन इफेक्ट सरफेस वाटर, फॉर एग्जांपल स्पिल फ्रॉम एन ऑयल टैंकर क्रिएट्स एन ऑयल spill on an ocean. and the pollutants from the industries, from the factories, from the fertilizers, it goes all in your lakes and rivers. The domestic sewage, it all goes into your surface water and it gets polluted. Now coming to the point on groundwater pollution. Groundwater क्या होता है कि a great deal of water is held in the underground rock structures. They are known as aquifers, which we cannot see. Water stored underground in aquifers is known as groundwater. जो mostly हम लोग हैंड के ज़रिए से बाहर निकालते हैं उसको हम ग्राउंड वाटर कहते हैं. और ये ग्राउंड वाटर पोल्यूशन जो है ये किससे हो जाता है? ग्राउंड वाटर पोल्यूशन, it can too become polluted. For example, when weed killers used in people's garden drain into the ground, when we use fertilizers and pesticides during our agricultural processes, it gets seeped into the soil and gets mixed up into the underground water, and thus contamination starts over there. There are two different ways in which can cause water pollution. Number one is point source pollution. Point source pollution क्या होता है? जब if pollution comes from a single location, अगर एक ही point पर सारा pollutant निकल रहा है, such as you have discharge pipes attached to a factory, that is a point source pollution. या हम दूसरे एग्जांपल ले सकते हैं, जब कभी ऑयल स्पिल हो जाते हैं टैंकर्स में, कभी लीकेज हो जाता है समंदर में और ऑयल स्पिल्स हो जाते हैं, तो वो एक पॉइंट सोर्स माना जाएगा. या वी हैव समवन पोरिंग ऑयल फ्रॉम देयर कार डाउन अ ड्रेन. these are the examples of point source pollution. Second one is non-point source pollution. We can define it as when discharging of pollutants occur over a large area, that is from all sides. For example, agricultural runoff, water from roads, streets, etc. As you can see in the picture, that the pollutants are coming from the various sources and are going into the river. That is the non-point source pollution. When a point source pollution enters the environment, the place most affected is usually the area immediately around the source. But when we are talking about the non-point source pollution, it enters environment from different places at once. Then we have sources of water pollution. बहुत सारे sources of water pollution के जो हम डिस्कस करेंगे. नंबर वन इज स्वेज. स्वेज हम कहते हैं उस वेस्ट को जो हमारे घरों में से, जो हमारे डोमेस्टिक एरियाज से, कमर्शियल एरियाज से, इंडस्ट्रियल एरियाज से निकलता है, उस वेस्ट वाटर को हम स्वेज कहते हैं. एंड दिस वेस्ट मैटर इज कैरीड अवे इन थ्रू द ड्रेन्स. स्वेज अगर देखा जाए, द मेजर प्रॉब्लम इन टुडेज वर्ल्ड इज द डिस्पोजिंग ऑफ स्वेज वेस्ट. And if we see the figure of 2013 from WHO, they say that some 780 million people don't have access to safe drinking water, while 2.5 billion do not have proper sanitation. Sewage disposal का जो मैटर है वो इतना ज़्यादा ग्रेव है कि इससे जो इमीडिएट एनवायरनमेंट हमारा इफ़ेक्ट होता है, और इमीडिएट एनवायरनमेंट में हम सबसे पहली कैटेगरी लोगों की आती है. द फर्स्ट वन those who get affected by this are the people directly, and this do lead to various water illnesses like diarrhea and waterborne diseases. In 2002, World Health Organization estimated that water related diseases could kill as many as 135 million people by 2020. अब आप खुद ही सोच सकते हैं कि सीवेज इज अ major problem of this one of the sources of the water pollution. Then the next is the nutrients. यहाँ पर हम nutrients की जब बात करते हैं, we are talking about the nitrogen and phosphorus which are coming from the fertilizers and pesticides. क्योंकि हम लोग जो हैं जब भी हम लोग अपने agricultural processes करते हैं, we use fertilizers, we use pesticides for the agricultural purposes, but during that जितना भी plant ने absorb करना होता है, जितना भी उन्हें utilize करना होता है, they do utilize that, but the excess amount of the fertilizers and pesticides is drained into the underground water. And what happens, these chemical fertilizers that are used by the farmers to add so that they can add nutrients to the soil, get drained into the rivers and seas, and they get added into the our underground water also. So we can say that together sewage and the fertilizer can cause a massive increase in the growth of alga or planktons, and this gives rise to your algal bloom, जिसको हम algal bloom का नाम भी देते हैं, जो हमारी water bodies में बहुत problem create करता है. It's harmful because it removes oxygen from the water that kills other forms of life, leading to what it is known as dead zone. Then the third source is the wastewater. When we are talking about the wastewater, we are saying that the chemicals washed down by the drains and the discharge from the factories. Around the world generates perhaps 5 to 10 billion tons of industrial waste, and it is pumped directly into your rivers, into the lakes, into the oceans, into other and in other waterways. Factories are point source of water pollution, but quite a lot of water is polluted by the ordinary people. फैक्ट्री से भी वेस्ट वाटर निकलता है, लेकिन ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो वेस्ट वाटर हमारा निकल रहा है वो एक ऑर्डिनरी पीपल की वजह से भी पानी पोल्यूट हो रहा है. How does it becomes? Because when everyone pours chemical of one or the another down their drains or toilets, and the detergents we are using for our washing clothes, dishwashers, and the soaps which we use in our daily for our daily purposes, they all constitute your wastewater, and it is being drained into the rivers and the oceans, and the pesticides which we use in our gardens also. Then next is your chemical waste. Chemical wastes are not only the detergents which we are using, but today we will be talking about the PCBs. PCBs means polychlorinated biphenyls. These are the toxic chemicals, and they were used for manufacturing of electronic circuit boards. But their harmful effects have now been recognized, so most of the countries have restricted their use. But many of the countries still use PCBs. Another toxic pollution comes from the heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, mercury. Lead, it's used in gasoline, and mercury and cadmium are used in the batteries. The highly usage of all these heavy metals, when it is the e-waste जब जमा हो जाता है हमारा, इन e-waste के दौरान ही जो लैंडफिलिंग्स में जब ये चला जाता है हमारा सारा e-waste, ये केमिकल्स जो है रिलीज़ हो जाते हैं, and they get directly or indirectly they get into your water bodies, thus polluting them. Then you have radioactive waste. Radioactive waste में हम बोलते हैं that high enough concentration of radioactive waste can kill a large population. In lower concentration it causes cancers and other illnesses. तो चाहे इनका less level पे pollution है, low concentration में pollution है, या higher level पे pollution है, तो radioactive waste हमारे लिए दोनों तरीकों से, दोनों सूरतों में हमारे लिए बहुत problem create करता है. Then you have oil pollution. Oil pollution, here we are talking about the oil spills. Yes, the tanker spills are not as significant as they might seem. Only 12% of oil that enters the ocean comes from tanker accidents. Over 70% of oil pollution at sea comes from routine shipping. जो दैट मीन्स जो हम समझते हैं कि क्योंकि एक्सीडेंट्स तो कभी कभार ही होते रहते हैं, लेकिन जो ऑयल पोल्यूशन, जो मैक्सिमम जो हमारा ऑयल पोल्यूट कर रहा है सी, दैट इज़ ऑल बिकॉज ऑफ द शिपिंग. क्योंकि शिपिंग के दौरान जो है ड्यूरिंग दैट शिपिंग देयर इज़ आने जाने में ही वो जो बड़े बड़े टैंकर्स हैं वो थोड़ा ऑयल जो है वो वहाँ पर स्पिल हो जाता है, विच कैन मेक टैंकर स्पिल. एंड उस ऑयल स्पिलेज की वजह से जो है जो सारा ऑयल है वो पूरी ओशन में फैल जाता है, एंड इट डू किल द फाइटोप्लैंक्टन, जूप्लैंक्टन्स एंड द एक्वाटिक ऑर्गेनिजम्स ऑफ विच आर प्रेजेंट इन द सी. There are some estimates I want to like to tell you that marine animals killed in the spill vary from approximately 1,000 sea otters, 34,000 birds, and as many as 2,800 sea otters and 250,000 seabirds. Several billion salmons and eggs are also believed to have been destroyed by all the oil pollution. Then the last but not the least we have plastics. जो plastic जो है that is being commonly used for our daily purposes, every kind of manufacturing objects like from clothing to automobile parts, the plastic use होता है from your head to toe, everything जो भी हम यूज़ कर रहे हैं घरों में ज़्यादा हमारा प्लास्टिक्स का ही इस्तेमाल होता है. तो ये सारा प्लास्टिक आखिरकार जाता कहाँ पर है? It do goes into your water bodies, and this plastic is a major problem in today's world. It's a major world issue. We say that there are most plastics are not biodegradable, which means that things like plastic bottle tops can survive in the marine environment for a longer time. Plastic bottles जो हैं they are said to be कि ये survive करते हैं about 450 years तक ये ocean में रह सकते हैं. And जो plastic fishing line है that can last up to 600 years, क्योंकि जो हमारी nets वगैरह जो होती हैं जो fish को collect करने के लिए use की जाती हैं वो भी प्लास्टिक से ही बनती हैं. आफ्टर लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ अ टाइम जो मछुआरे होते हैं वो उसको वहीं पर फेंक देते हैं एंड इट गोज इनटू द सी, और उसके बाद इट कैन हैव अ पॉइजनस इफेक्ट ऑन द क्रिएचर्स व्हिच आर प्रेजेंट इन द सी. चोकिंग का बहुत इसमें इफ़ेक्ट रहता है मरीन क्रिएचर्स का, इनमें चोकिंग हो जाती है, इनके स्टमक में ये प्लास्टिक्स जमा हो जाते हैं. एंड द टाइम कम्स व्हेन अ स्पीशीज गेट इफेक्टेड, और इनका एक्सटिंक्शन रेट फिर इससे ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है बाय द व्हेन द प्लास्टिक इज गोइंग इनटू द रिवर्स एंड लेक्स. These are all about the sources of water pollution. Then the next is the effects of water pollution. क्या क्या प्रॉब्लम्स अब वाटर पोल्यूशन से हो सकती हैं? नंबर वन इज़ स्प्रेडिंग ऑफ एपिडेमिक डिजीज़. एपिडेमिक डिजीज़ में जब हम बात करते हैं तो हम इन सारी डिजीज़ की बात कर रहे हैं दैट आर रिलेटेड टू वाटर बॉर्न डिजीज़, लाइक यू हैव फीवर, कॉलरा, टाइफाइड, डायरिया, इन्फेक्शन ऑफ हेपेटाइटिस एंड जॉन्डिस एंड एट्सेट्रा. So it can lead to epidemic diseases whenever this water with dirty water is used by the population. Then you have second is eutrophication. Eutrophication क्योंकि हमारा next topic eutrophication है, so we will discuss in our next lecture about the eutrophication. Then third is the Minamata disease. Minamata disease was mercury related disease. When the water is it's polluted with the mercury, the disease which is caused by is known as Minamata disease, and we will discuss this Minamata disease further because we have it in our next in this unit. We will discuss it further after that. Then you have carcinogenic effect. Carcinogenic effect because when the water is polluted with your insecticides, DDTs and pesticides, धीरे धीरे जब ये humans में accumulate हो जाता है, it can cause the carcinogenic effect. Cancer causing diseases can occur in the population. Then we have blue baby syndrome. ये blue baby syndrome तब होता है when the water is contaminated with the nitrate, and when this water is used for the infants for during their formula milk powder, जब हम उनको देते हैं बच्चों को, and इस पानी में अगर nitrate present होगा तो a great amount of nitrates gets accumulated into the infant's body, which restricts the amount of oxygen that reaches the brain, and thus leading a problem that is known as a blue baby syndrome. Then the next is black foot disease. Black foot disease is when the water is contaminated with the arsenic, and जब ये arsenic का पानी किसी की body में जाता है तो it is characterized by diarrhea, it is characterized by hyperkeratosis, and it can lead to lungs and skin cancers. So these are some of the effects of the water pollution. Okay students, this was about water pollution, but during next phase we will discuss some other topics which are in this unit. Today we will close chapter right now. During our second lecture we will discuss about the eutrophication, we will discuss about the biomagnification and domestic sewage and its treatment, and marine pollution, and last water pollution control. This one lecture was up to your effects of water pollution. So inshallah we will meet next time. Till then, take care of yourself. May Allah bless you all. Jazakallah khair.